She's a girl. She's dark. She's thin. She's a tomboy. She likes snakes. She's crazy. She left the country. Oh, she's crazy. She's back already. She lives in a tent now. Whoa, she's totally crazy. She has animals for company. Man, she's completely crazy. Well, she's speaking to you right now. Very good morning to everybody. These are some of the labels that I've been given since I was really little, since pretty much that I was born. And crazy, as you learn, is one of the recurring ones. Crazy is something I wear very proudly now. However, it wasn't always like that. So today, let me take you back to my 36 something life. Yes, now you know my age. There, I was born to be a boy, just like a lot of Indian families. And I was a little darker than my cousins and siblings. So you can imagine what that means in the Indian front. I've spent most of my childhood climbing trees, eating a lot of mud, playing under the sun. I can't complain. I've had an extremely privileged life, well supported with loads of exposure. But right since I was young, I knew that I was really different from those around me. I knew that I didn't fit in. I never did understand that then. I just struggled to keep up with all the A-listers in school, all the front benchers. I kept being asked to behave myself. I kept getting into trouble for not adhering to the norms. That seems to be a theme that's remained throughout my life. I was usually the kid in class that didn't listen to the teachers much, that was always caught for being naughty or asking a question that I actually should have been known the answer to. Was I paying attention? I was never the teacher's pet. Far from it, actually. And a lot of you might actually relate to that. I was mostly the nightmare, the unruly, talkative, below average in academics kind of a girl. I was popular though for my courage, right since I was really young. I would pick up fights and speak up for how I felt. I would pick up fights with people bigger than me. I felt very deeply for the earth and the animals and for nature. I believe I must have been around 11, close to your age, when there was a road widening plan that came up in Pune. It meant that some of the old trees in my neighborhood were going to be cut down. It meant that I had a choice. I had a choice. And we always are faced with a choice, right? I had a choice to either participate or run away and accept what was happening. So, my friend back then and I handwrote some awareness slogans. We drew a small green triangle and called our campaign the Green Alert Campaign. We walked around our locality and distributed these pamphlets, and that evening, some of us kids got together and we stood around the trees, much like the Chipko movement, and we hugged them. The trees that we hugged are still there. And I would like to believe that the kids played some role in that. I would like to believe that that was the start of a movement. Well, this stuff was a lot away from the classroom. I was doing fun stuff in the classroom. I had support of my parents. However, back in school, let's just say I was an outstanding student. Outstanding, meaning standing outside the class, by the way, on most days. Some teachers would, in fact, ask me to leave the class even before they entered. They were so sure of my capacity for disrupting the class. The one place, though, that I was always wanted in school, other than the principal's office, was the sports ground. I was on nearly all the school teams, and I was even a medal winner for the track and field events. I went on to represent school for basketball, badminton, and even track and field events at the state level. That was nice. It allowed me to be outside, right? Nature, outdoors, sports, and animals had my heart right since I was really, really young. My parents actually sent me on my first nature camp as young as 7. It was at this lovely little place near Pune called, it was run by a family called Mrs. Broom. And Mrs. Broom is actually one of the first people I remember, one of my earliest memories as an educator. She's a childhood shiro. You know what shiro is, right? Heroes and shiros. Well, I also obviously had to take tuition since I was mostly outside class while at school. And there too, I was more interested in the stuff outside the room. But my tuition teacher, Mrs. Mandloy, was really kind. She used to allow me ever so often to go out and study the birds that I so enamored. And, the little line of ants that used to walk around that I preferred to watch rather than how the British ruled India. Well, I made it through school just about. In fact, the school principal called me, round about my ninth standard, something that I was used to by now, and told me, listen, kid, I'm going to pass you because I cannot have you in school for another year. I just need you to go on. So that's how school looked for me. Well, little did I know that a few years later, the same school principal would actually invite me to school for a talk with the students as one of the outstanding alumni, if you know what I mean. Well, many camps and treks continued. I'd helped my first snake at the age of 13. I was bitten by one at the age of 16, by the way, and many times after and since. All non venomous, don't you worry. That's a funny incident, actually, the first snake bite. I remember bunking college, obviously, and that was normal stuff. And I was volunteering at the local snake park. And something the parents did not know that I was bunking college and doing this. And while learning to handle snakes, a big checkered keelback, it's a non venomous water snake, one of these big checkered keelbacks bit me nearly 12 times. Now, those guys give a really nasty bite. And my hand was looking like a war field, I promise you. My whole forearm was like full of like a war field. So I wore full sleeves and hid my bites. But I've never been good at not getting caught. So I was caught pretty soon by my parents. So here's the scene that played out. Okay. I was 16 years old. I just discovered the world of boys. So I even had a so called boyfriend. So I'm sitting at the dining table, dad and mom in front of me. Dad extremely stressed and angry and trying to ask me, did a boy hurt you? And me sitting there, all of 16, wondering what would be easier, telling my dad it was a boy or telling my dad it was a snake bite? Guess what I went with? I went with the snake bite. And ever since then, with the unfailing support of my family, I've gone on to get a BSc honors and an MSc in wildlife conservation and animal biology. So though I was not your perfect academic student, I still got the opportunity to do something that I loved to do. Well, nature, sports, and outdoors remained an integral part even in my life in England, which is where I studied. I spent more time inside the class there because I loved what I was studying. I enjoyed the learning, and I was even part of the women's basketball team there. I had a part time job to earn pocket money and a bunch of like minded friends. Life looked pretty good back then. When I returned from England 6 years later and took on a job in Delhi in 2008, I was doing an awareness session in a posh school up in Delhi. I was passionately talking about saving the tiger and saving the jungle, and this little kid, that's how I must have been in class, I'm sure. This little kid raised his hand, stopped me midway, and asked me, well, ma'am, all that is true. What am I supposed to do? Boom. It caught me off guard. I didn't really have an answer. I gave some kind of a makeshift answer, but I really, really didn't know. And there, that was where the inner search began. What can we as an urban population really do? How do we create impact? Soon after, I quit my job. I decided to blow up some of dad's money and travel the world for some time. And introspecting the entire time, learning from cultures, how do we empower people to be change makers? Pretty soon after, Protectera Ecological Foundation was born in 2010. And incredible opportunities came along. There were so many opportunities that came along, but one that always remains with me is this time when I was teaching at a local school. And are you paying attention? Me, the unruly, talkative, mischief maker student, had gone from a classroom back into a classroom, but this time as a teacher. So imagine what I was telling the kids, right? I was telling all the kids, listen, all you guys in the back there, whatever you're doing, I probably invented it. So don't try to pull a fast one on me. So there, I was standing in class and I get called to the principal's office. And I'm like, now what did I do? But as I went to the principal's office, she told me that there was a guest speaker that who was going to come to my class that day. While I was standing there, I was like, sure, no problem, guest speaker, brilliant. While I was standing there, little did I imagine that the guest speaker that I was going to host that day was none other than Mrs. Broom, my childhood hero. It was so overwhelming. It was so overwhelming to stand beside her and teach me, this mischief maker, this crazy girl who's never really been great at school, was standing next to who I looked up to as my childhood hero, imparting nature education. That was humbling. And it was incredibly encouraging to know that, you know what, I might have just got it a little right. Fast forward to many incredible stories that took me across the length and breadth of India into her heartlands, meeting incredible people and animals and learning every day that I had a huge responsibility on my shoulders. Why? Well, I was privileged. I didn't have to worry about where my meals were coming from or whether I had a bed to sleep in, something I saw across India. I didn't have to worry about these things. So I had an even bigger responsibility to make change, to actually make choices, and to ask the question every day, what choices am I making for the planet? What choices am I making for the planet that I so love? Well, I was talking about change and conservation. I was talking to children and adults and communities. I was talking about raising the bar of awareness. I was talking about ecological behavioral change amongst people. But at the same time, I was leading an extremely opulent life, an extreme life of so much waste, of so much luxury. And I was not walking my talk. I actually felt like a hypocrite. I felt extremely untrue. I knew that I had to live the life that I was talking to people about. I knew, and in the words of Robert Swan, the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that somebody else is actually going to go and save it. I knew that I had to do my bit. So, as late as 2015, at about the age of 31, 32, I shifted to Protectara's campsite project, which was there from earlier, the farm. I shifted into what was an old, tattered tent, completely clueless about the future, completely clueless about how my life was going to look. I was choosing against the comforts of luxury, a lifestyle that was not only challenging, but minimalistic and tough. I was choosing challenge over comfort. I was choosing a total revamp of my lifestyle over the ease of living that I could get at home. Believe it or not, people in Pune, so when you're as crazy as me, people talk about you, right? People in Pune, I heard, were betting against the fact that I wouldn't last a single monsoon in the tent and that I would run back to Daddy Darling. Well, guess what it's taken? Talking about the theme for today, what it's taken out of me is a whole lot of resilience. It has taken a lot of learning from the animals and the earth, loads of self love because there was so much criticism and a whole new awareness of how life can be lived. It has taken resilience. Well, I've had the support of all kinds of animals, plants, the shining sun, the torrential rain, even. I've had the support of a handful of people who stood by me in my darkest and toughest times. There was a lot of people who left, a lot of people who couldn't handle that this one's going to go live in a tent now with a bunch of animals. But those who stood by me stand by me even today. I remember the night not too long back, actually recently, the last monsoon that passed. I remember the night that my home flooded, and I was standing there in ankle deep water in the middle of the night, watching my tent, have water coming in, and my knees buckled. That's not something that happens to me very often. And I stood there completely defeated and lost, not knowing what to do. And while I was standing there wondering, how am I going to handle this tomorrow morning? Because there's nothing I can do at midnight. I was standing there. And while I was looking around, on my laundry basket, one of the resident cats was curled up and she was looking straight at me, her eyes literally piercing through my soul. She was looking straight at me, almost like a reminder that, Mum, this too shall pass. Whatever comes tomorrow morning, you, Mum, have the courage. And she was a reminder. She was a reminder that, you know what? When the sun came up the next morning, I'd figure this one out. Well, I've had elephants that have stayed with me. I've had cats that keep my lap happy and continue to purr me to sleep. I have dogs that keep my bed warm and are still there. There is just so much to learn from nature if we're paying attention. The trees, when they stand in the torrential rain or when the sun is harsh, they're a reminder, they're a stoic reminder of the fact that this will pass, that the rain will come or the sun will shine. They're a reminder that, you know what, everything changes. I have learned from the animals and I've learned from the trees and nature. I've learned patience, I've learned resilience, but most importantly, I've learned unconditional love and an untiring faith. Terra, Latin goddess of the earth, she is the ultimate teacher, I promise you. Well, alongside nature and animals, the one constant in my life has been sport. Sport has remained steadfast, and I encourage all of you to play at least a sport in your life. Well, sport has remained steadfast and continues to be the other space of learning for me. It humbles you when you play in a team, when you're pushed to your limits. Having always been a sportswoman, learning a new sport at 31 was not too difficult. I was unceremoniously not selected on the team the first time I tried out, but I came back. It broke me down, but I came back fitter, faster, and stronger to actually make the Maharashtra senior women's rugby team. Yes, I said rugby. Yes, me, all of under 50 kgs, body type not meant for rugby. Yes, I play on the women's Maharashtra rugby team. And I'm usually mocked for my size. I still play the state side. I usually get mocked for my size for a sport like rugby, but I get out there and I play because I love it and it makes me happy. And even though I come back with many bruises and aching muscles most days, I still know that I'd rather be out there playing and enjoying myself than worrying about what people think of me. It has not been easy. Let me kid you not. It has not been easy. It has taken criticism. It has taken failures. It has taken feedback. It has even given me anxiety. I have had depression. I've literally shed my blood, sweat, and tears. And it has taken running around in soaking rain, ensuring that the goats are dry, even if I'm soaked to the skin. It has taken mistakes, some of them which have cost us the lives of our animals. It has taken a lot of struggle. It has taken floods and droughts. It has taken falling structures and termites, staff issues and fights, breakups and breakdowns. It has taken a lot out of us. A lot of struggles have come our way, and it's been tough. And I know there's a lot more of this to come. However, the one thing that I can share, that though it has not been easy, it has been extremely rewarding. It has been extremely humbling, and it's been full of love. I can't explain to you the love that animals can give and nature can give. None of it would have been possible without the support of the animals and the people who believe in our work and the vision that I hold close. My family, who's allowed me the freedom to be me completely. Go live in a tent. Okay, we'll deal with it. I make it sound simple, but it wasn't. Well, through it all, 36 something strong, what has still kept my passion unwavering and my faith intact are some of these life lessons that I learned along the way. And some I wish I were told when I was your age, some I wish I were told when I were younger. But right now, since I have a choice and I have the opportunity, I'd like to share some of these with you, the future of this planet, the planet that I so deeply care about and so deeply love, the planet that we call our home. Number one, in the end, people are going to judge you anyway. Wake up every day and be true to you. Every single day, wake up and impress yourself. Number two, remember the spider and the fly? Well, what is normal for the spider is building a web, and what is chaos for the fly is going into this web. So, normal is an illusion. People will call you, you're so abnormal, you're so different, you're so unlike us. Normal is an illusion. Choose what is your normal. It is okay to be different. I wish I was told this younger on that it is okay to be different. When we make such choices, we are then faced with the question of what if I fall? What if I fall, you ask me? Well, my darlings, let me simply ask you, what if you fly? It just takes a little bit of courage for a little bit of moment for something incredible to happen. If you're scared, it is testimony to the fact that you're ready for the adventure, that you're ready for what is coming your way. You have it in you. You have the resilience, you have the courage, and you have what it takes to ride this thing called life. Just believe that. Remember at the start of my talk, those adjectives? Remember that those adjectives that were used for me for so long? Well, today the adjectives that I hear most tend to be she's wild, she's true, she's real, she's passionate, and of course, she is still totally crazy. Thank you so much.